Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 158 of our trip around the United States. So, I don't know if any of you talk to your dogs. I of course talk to mine, and more importantly, she talks to me. After finishing our way on the trails last night in the Wichita Mountains National Wildlife Refuge, Aichan and I had a heart-to-heart. She was not feeling a second day of what we just did, especially given the fact that all of the remaining virtuals and earth caches, with the exception of 2, were quite significant hikes by comparison to what we just did. I would say that we really did what we came there to do. So we made the decision of, instead of spending a second day out there, that we were going to get on with our miles and hit the road once again. We're starting this morning from Hobart in Kiowa County at the Rock Island Depot. Rock Island Depot has a lot of history and is now serving as the museum for Kiowa County. We arrived here just in time for them to open their doors. So in just a moment, we're going to take you inside the building and give you a tour of the museum and a little bit of a history of Kiowa County. From here, we're going to get started into our miles for the day. We have 325 miles to cover from here. We're going to head west to the very edge of Oklahoma, drop down to the southern border of the state, and then start making our way east until we hit the center point of the state in Marietta. But for now, we're going to get on the road, cover some miles, not slay the dog, with 10 plus miles of hiking through the mountains, and have an enjoyable day of geocaching. Can't wait to see what it has in store. Check it out together. Come on, let's go.
The Rock Island Depot was built in 1909 and used all the way up until the 1970s. It is a one-story brick and stucco passenger depot that retains the highest degree of historic integrity. Rail transportation became important in southwestern Oklahoma shortly after the turn of the century. At that time, large tracts of land in the area, formerly reserved for Native American tribes, were open to non-Native American settlements by a lottery. Potential economic development in this part of Oklahoma encouraged railroad corporations to create branch lines to new towns and proposed areas of settlement throughout the region. The first railroad to service the area of Kiowa County was the Chicago and Rock Island. The Rock Island Depot was added to the National Register of Historic Places because of the 3 depot buildings in the area, only this depot retained its integrity sufficiently to illustrate the coming of railroad transportation to Hobart. In the late 1980s, the Kiowa County Historical Society acquired the property. After several years of repairs and extensive remodeling, they were ready to open their doors in the early 1990s. To say that there is a lot of history to be seen in this building would be a dramatic understatement. Each room is absolutely jam-packed with shelves and displays and items piled on top of one another. The display areas include Native American artifacts, pioneering supplies, buggies, wagons, and household wares. There are also exhibits to include a blacksmith shop, laundry, a grocery store, early Model T vehicles, and an early kitchen. What you see here is really just the smallest slice of what this museum has to offer. You could spend the better part of a day here looking through the historical artifacts and reading about the history of Kiowa County and still not be able to see it all. But with free entry available to the public, there's absolutely no reason you shouldn't drop in and have a look around. Upon our departure from Kiowa County, we started into our miles for the day, heading west across the state. And in sharp contrast to the time we spent in the Wichita Mountains yesterday, everything we saw was plains. Plains and plains as far as the eye can see. Aichan at least appreciated all of the flat terrain to be able to walk on today.
It's a little prairie dog farm right in the middle of the interstate. This is one of the most adorable virtuals I've ever been to.
Most of our finds making our way across the plains of the southwest corner of the state were parking grabs, but several of them were large enough to hold swag. And as you can tell, this ammo can had no more room for swag. It was filled to the top. We also stopped in to visit a Trackable Hotel, but got stymied by the lock on top. After spending way longer than I care to admit to figure out the combination, we eventually got inside and rewarded with a geocache full of swag and other items to trade. As trackable hotels go, this is not too bad at all. The only terrain challenge that we would encounter today, outside of the plains that dominate this region, came when we reached Headquarters Mountain within the city of Greer. Looming 600 feet above the surrounding plains, this is actually one of the oldest mountains in the continental United States, having formed around 550 million years ago. Although the terrain on the trail leading up the mountain is relatively easy to traverse, following the trail itself is not such a simple task. Even with the green arrows and stone markers helping to lead the way, it often disappears from sight. Fortunately, whether or not we had the trail directly underfoot, we always had the listings to help guide the way up, even if the geocache containers themselves weren't in the best shape. It was still a very fun climb up to the top, giving me a workout for the day as I made my way steadily up and up. And I'm happy to find any geocache, no matter what condition it's in, but especially if it has a dry logbook.
Wouldn't you know it, you can count on me to drive out here to the plains of Oklahoma and still manage to climb to the top of one of the only mountains around.
I sat for a few moments and enjoyed the view looking out from the top of Headquarters Mountain before getting on the road once again. We passed through a number of small towns on our way, most of them without any geocaches at all, but several of them with interesting murals to see.
Oh, come on now. I mean, it's not like I expect every payphone I pick up to work. Actually, I don't expect them to work at all. But if the phone is located in front of the telephone company building, at least that one, maybe? But nope.
After what felt like countless hours of crossing the lonely plains, we reached the city of Frederick, the county seat of Tillman County, with a population of around 4,000 people. Here we followed the geocache listings to the lawn of the courthouse square, where we were able to view a veterans memorial and several other displays in the area. The most interesting story we encountered was that of the Abernathy boys, a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old who, in 1909, rode from Guthrie, Oklahoma to Santa Fe, New Mexico, all by themselves. Meanwhile, at 5 years old, I could barely pour a bowl of cereal by myself. Departing Frederick, we started on our way across the plains once again. The geocache options in the furthest southwest corner of Oklahoma were limited for the counties in the pages. But the few that we did target were right where they were supposed to be. And really, that's all that we could ask for as we make our way steadily toward the end of another day. By the time we reached Waurika, the county seat of Jefferson County, with a population of around 2,000, the sun was already beginning to go down. We considered ourselves fortunate to reach the Waurika Veterans Memorial within Waurika Park with some shreds of daylight still on our side. Completed in 2016, this park features benches with the emblems of each service, a memorial to all of the Jefferson County veterans who have served, and a special tribute to the Wallace family, with 6 sons having served over half a century.
And there we have it. The sun sets down on another day on the road here in Oklahoma. And our last full day in Oklahoma for a little bit here. Tomorrow we're going to be split halfway between Oklahoma and Texas with what I have in mind. As much as it pains me to admit, we made the right decision in cutting out the second half of Wichita Mountains National Wildlife Refuge today. Those targets would have been too much for the dog, and it would have taken us all day to get maybe half a dozen or so virtuals. I knew for sure that it was the right decision when we got to Headquarters Mountain. Ai-chan got out of the car, we walked up to the base of the trail together. She took one look up at the top of the mountain and said, "No, I'm not doing it. I'm not climbing that mountain. You got me up Little Baldy yesterday. I'm not doing that right now." She turned around and wanted to go back to the car. She would hear none of it. So had we stayed out there today like the original plan had intended, it would have been a rough day. She would not have wanted to play. She would have wanted to spend all day in the car, and it would have been a fight between us for no reason at all. I'd rather the dog be happy with what we're doing, and both of us enjoy our time on the road, because both of us are getting to travel through the country. Me getting to enjoy all the geocaches and the scenic sights along the way, her getting to enjoy all the smells, and not having to climb up to the top of a bunch of mountains if she doesn't want to. We made it just in time to the Waurika Veterans Memorial for the sunset. Really could not have worked out better for the day. We're only 2 counties shy of our planned endpoint, and I'm not going to be going past Marietta today. Thank you guys for continuing to join in with us. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.